Hi there, and welcome to today's episode where we talk with Stephanie Augustine of Satyam Yoga over in Perth, Australia. And today we combine two topics. We talk about a very traditional approach to yoga, kind of the holistic lifestyle perspective, and we bring in a topic of sustainability because that Stephanie's background is in sustainability. She studied it throughout her studies and worked for many years in corporate, helping corporations with finding sustainability. So we explain what different aspects of sustainability there are, what it actually means, how obviously organizations can look at being a bit more sustainable, but mostly how we individually can bring the ideas of sustainability into our daily lives. And we do talk so much about yoga. We talk about yoga traditions, about yoga practices, we talk about India, we talk about the differences between yoga in Germany, in Europe, and in Australia. This is a beautiful conversation. If you have any kind of an interest in yoga, spirituality, self-development, travel, then I'm sure you will find something of interest in this episode. So let's dive in.
Before we start our beautiful conversation, here are your reminders. Please do subscribe, share, hit notification buttons, follow whatever you'll need to do on the platform that you listen to or watch us. We would love to grow our audience, to grow our reach. That's the word, grow our reach, and also share episodes with friends or colleagues who you think will get value from that conversation that we're having. Again, we have a newsletter where we do share dig deeper into some of the topics on certain things, or with tips, advice. You only get it twice a month, so you don't get inundated with it. The link for our newsletter is below in the descriptions. Sign up. There's some great information there from that we have gleaned from our guests, and also the gold nuggets on Patreon, but more about that next time. But now let's get on with this really great conversation that we had today.
Flying all the way from Australia. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
All good. So please tell us and our listeners a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do, what ideas really lit your fire, what it is that we may get into conversation on today's podcast.
Yes. So first of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy that I can be here today and share my vision, my ideas. My name is Stephanie. I founded Satyam Yoga in 2019. It's basically the idea to pass on the traditional yoga philosophy that I learned from my yoga master in India. Apart from being a yoga teacher, I'm also a sustainability consultant, and I just moved to Western Australia actually in 23, so it's not that long ago. Before that, I could have flown from Germany, so it was closer, but now, I'm sitting in Western Australia, and I work as a freelancer. I'm combining now both of my passions, sustainability and yoga. I think they are connected in a very well way. So yoga is for me kind of the personal sustainability, and then I do the consulting for corporates.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. That's so interesting that, you move from Germany, which, yeah, I'm from Czech Republic. Natalie is in the UK, so it's kind of Europe. And that you've decided to then Australia. Definitely better weather.
Yeah, definitely. That's for sure.
But we were talking about it a little bit before we started about Satyam, that,
Yes.
the name immediately resonated with me when I saw you pop in a Facebook group and we were looking for some podcast guests. I was like, oh, I know Satyam Yoga. I used to go to Satyam Yoga in Cambridge. And then I looked at the location in Australia. I'm like, probably not the same one. But
Mm.
tell us a little bit about the name. There is something in the name that it, across the globe, people attracted to yoga tend to pick this name specifically.
Yeah. The other funny thing about the name, because I'm in Perth, Western Australia, and I think there's another Perth on your side, so that's not the same Perth as well. But yeah, speaking of Satyam, so why I call it Satyam Yoga? Satyam is a Sanskrit word, and it means traditional. And my yoga teacher, he has a school that's called Satyam Vedic Yoga School, and Vedic is true. So his name basically means true and traditional yoga, and I just picked like the traditional out of it because I think the really true one is probably most resonates with Indians and how they teach and all that. And I'm just trying to like pass on as much as I can from his teachings. So I just shortened it and said, okay, I'll go for the Satyam. And I guess that's probably the studio, they just took on maybe the same idea and just said, okay, we focus on traditional yoga, which basically means, why I'm saying traditional, it means more than just movement. So I find that these days, a lot of people think yoga is only about doing exercises and like maybe going to a gym and then in addition have a fitness class and or like in addition to their fitness class have a yoga class. But it's more than that. There is so much more. So that's why I like to, focus on the traditional part.
And I think we're slowly getting there with people understanding and us accepting that yoga is more than just the asanas. It's not just
Yeah.
getting into twisted pretzel position and seeing
Yes.
how long, how bendy I can get. It is more about, the holistic approach. And I'm very intrigued by then your vision and your approach of bringing in the sustainability, because for me, it makes total sense. Holistic approach, bringing the body, mind, and spirit, our whole life, and then bringing in the sustainability. So how does it reflect in your teachings, in your approach? What role sustainability plays? How does it showcase? How do you teach it?
Well, first of all, what is sustainability? So sustainability means we want to do something for a long period of time. We want to make it last. And this is, I guess, the same with yoga kind of. So if you start, your aim should not be go to this pretzel position, like you said, in the quickest time possible, and maybe not even at all. So this is one of the misconceptions that I feel that stick around yoga. So one of them is I can only do yoga if I'm like very skinny and flexible and whatever, which is not true because everyone can do it. And you said the word asana. So asana basically means doing the exercises, but literally it's another Sanskrit word, and it means sitting. And why do we call all the exercises sitting? Because the main aim of yoga, and now we are going like into the spiritual definition a little bit, is to sit in meditation and in the end maybe get liberation or however we call it. So there are many terms around that, but this is like we like to focus on sitting there and just sitting calmly and getting our mind focused. And how could you sit for hours? You can only sit for hours if your body has the strength and the flexibility, but not the flexibility for the pretzel, but just for like sitting there. You could sit in any position, but just staying in one position for a long time requires all of the other movements that we do. And this is why we are doing them in the original meaning. So, and I'm trying to teach this to people. So I'm trying to encourage everyone to just come to the class. Even like in the beginning, when I started with my classes, I remember my advertising it was in German, but it was kind of saying, if you think yoga is not for you, then come to my class. So just encouraging people that they just should just try and join and see what it means. And also yoga is about having patience getting there, and it's about focusing on the way and not like the target itself. So this all resonates to sustainability, I would say, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I like how you describe it as being um like a journey. It's not about the end result, but it's about finding your way forward. And I mean, I've done yoga for years, and I know Lenka has done yoga, and it there are the two schools. It's as you said, it's a exercise. So you go, you do your hour class, you see how many positions you can turn yourself into. And for me, sometimes it was like, well, that person bends better than I do. What am I doing wrong? But the way you're describing it, and when you have it in the more, as you said, the traditional sense, it isn't about, yeah, that person can bend better than me, because that person has a different body, that person has different experiences, has maybe done that position longer than I have, or has done yoga longer, or they're more flexible. There's so many reasons why you're different. And that is one thing I love about yoga, is you can do yoga without having to be the same as the people around you. It's not like a race. You're not all trying to get to that finish line first or second or third to get the medals, but it is about the journey, because not everybody is the same. And I mean body as in physical body is not the same. There's injuries, there's habits, there's all sorts of things that make you different, that somebody's down dog is most probably looks really amazing, and you're thinking, oh my word, what am I doing? My wrists are sore. Oh, this isn't working for me. And but as you said, it is about then being in that moment and seeing how can we, really build on this down dog or tree or whatever position you're doing, and just allowing your body to find its own way to get to where it needs to go. So thank you for reminding us that it's not all about the end result. The journey is as important.
Yeah, and I think it's actually what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't focus on the person next to you, especially when you're in down dog, because then you're bending your neck, and this is not a good idea, I reckon. But yeah, don't focus on other people. So this is also what I always tell my students in the first class. I'm telling them it's you, it's your body, it's your personality. You have your goals. You have a special day today and a different day tomorrow, and the person next to you as well. So sometimes we are more flexible than other days, especially as women. We have like our cycles, so we have different phases, and we are not the same every day. So the only thing you can do is really like focus on yourself, and just, I always do a grounding when I start the class, so people can just like focus on the moment and just feel their body and realize how they feel now. And maybe sometimes we can work on some asanas and bend a little bit more, and then other days we can just do the basic variation of an asana because we don't feel that great. So this is all part of the journey. And yeah, like I said, it's not the sophisticated end pose that we want to achieve. We want to be in every position with our body, mind, and soul at the same time. So that is one definition of yoga, and this is why we are doing it. So it doesn't matter if your neighbor is bending more like you do.
You mentioned grounding, and grounding is something that I know that we've had guests before talk about it. And I know it can sometimes be what, it's, when I first heard about grounding, I'm thinking, does that mean I got to go and bury my feet in the garden or something? Yeah, I was quite naive, but it's trying to understand. Can you give our listeners some tips on well, first of all, explain why grounding is important, what grounding is, and then maybe how they can learn to ground themselves.
Yes. Thank you for asking that question. I really appreciate that, because I think that's one of the words that are flying around, and sometimes people don't know how to work with them. I think another one is journaling. I just like talked to someone the other day. She said like, oh, everyone is journaling these days and I don't know how to do it. So what I'm doing wrong? And I'm like, yeah, maybe it's not the thing for you. So you don't have to journal. And maybe not everyone needs to ground themselves, but generally what it means for me. So for me, it means just being present in the moment. That's the better word to put it, probably, or the better phrase. Imagine you're doing your yoga class, you signed up for it, and you just had a hard day in the office and you're rushing to the yoga class. You just like, I don't know, take the mat out of the car and run to the class and just throw your sneakers away and then sit on the mat, and that's it. And then now you have to do yoga. And if you start with this, I guess probably at the end of your 60 or 90-minute class, you're aware of the moment and you feel present. So this is why I want this grounding in the beginning. And for me, it means just coming with your mind where your body is, and just putting the focus and just taking a moment to realize that. And you could even do that. That has nothing to do with the yoga class. I even like to do this sometimes when, you know, the mind is just crazy and you're I don't know, all your thoughts are in different, go in different direction, and then you have to do some work, but then on the second hand you think about, oh, do I have to shop after I finish work, and then, oh, but I need to do this, and then on a weekend I have those plans. And so if you have like this monkey mind, I think we can call it, this is another time for grounding. And one of my favorite exercises, and I think all listeners can just try and do it, just sit on a chair, on the floor, wherever you want. You can even just stand and just put both your feet on the ground. You don't have to dig them into the soil. You don't have to be barefoot. You can if you want to. Barefoot is always good, but you don't need to. Just stand like, or sit, both feet on the floor, and just close your eyes. And then just take few deep breaths and just focus on the breath. Do nothing else and just focus on inhaling and exhaling, and maybe 5 times, and that's enough. And I'm very sure suddenly it will calm down, same as my voice just did, calming down when I started to explain the exercise. And this is helping you in many of daily situations.
I love the fact that we have these tools on our fingertips, literally,
Yes.
our little
Yes.
toes, that we don't need. Again, yoga often now in the Western world is presented as you need to buy fancy tools, you need to have fancy clothes, you need to go to yoga class, you need to do it in a certain way,
Yeah.
rather than embodying the principles, the simple principles, bringing them into our everyday life. Yes, it's great to go to yoga class, it's great to practice in community, it's great to deepen our practice, but I love that we're bringing it into any day, any moment, wherever we are. Once we've understood a couple of these simple principles,
Yeah.
there is zero cost, which I always loved,
Yeah.
where there is zero cost and there is no huge learning curve to really, be able to practice to get to the zone and to be able to get there. We all, most of us have feet and bodies that work and we can
Yes.
feel them. And we all most likely have access to our breath and we can observe it. So it's out there and we are finally slowly getting back to realizing how powerful these things are.
Yeah.
That we don't need external solutions. We don't always need chemical medicine. We don't always need any therapy. We don't all, yes, there are wonderful things out there. We might need them. But to start with, we have so much already innately within us that we can tap into to
Yeah.
help ourselves, as we always say here, to have a happier, healthier, more fulfilled life.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. And especially I think with the new technology now, like everyone is just using social media all over. So we are always getting input. The whole day we are getting input from everywhere. So this is another thing about grounding. I think it's more important than ever just to stop. So this is maybe another word. Just stop. Stop for 1 second and just don't do anything. At least try to. And then you will see what happens, because usually then the body rests very quickly, but the mind takes off again. So that's why I also just created like a small guide for people. So even maybe if your listeners are interested, they can download it for free as well on the website. And I added 5 steps that you can do daily just for 1 week. And one of them is actually just sitting down, like I said, and just do nothing for a couple of minutes. And it helps just to be aware and feel that awareness. So awareness is, or mindfulness, I think, is another word that just is in the air and everyone talks about. But it's like you said, it's a small, just a few small principles that you need to apply in your daily life, and that's it. And this is yoga. Like I said, it means body, mind, and soul at the same place at the same time. So it can even be if you're cooking and you're cutting your vegetables and you do this very mindfully and you enjoy your cooking process. This is considered yoga as well in the traditional definition. So it doesn't mean I have to go to a class and bend my body.
I think it's so interesting to really get to the roots of what yoga is and what yoga means and what some of these terms also represent. But it also then gets me thinking about the other half of what you do. about sustainability. We've already touched on, what a little bit of a definition of sustainability is for you. But could you tell us a little bit more about your background, like why sustainability became such a big part of what you do and how you approach yoga? How did you start to become interested in sustainability, and what amazing work? I know that you've done so much within the field already. So can you tell us a little bit more about your journey with sustainability, and then we can tie it all nicely together in one big bow?
Yes. So actually, I studied social sciences in the beginning. And then from there, the question was like in the beginning of the studies, you always have the question in mind, where do you go? Where do you work? In which field? And the social science field is very broad, so you can do a lot of things. And then one of the professors, he came up actually with the topic of, it was called corporate social responsibility, which is still a term we use. And it basically means that every company has a certain responsibility for the environment, but also for society. I mean, they are an employer, so that's for sure. But then also depending on the industry, maybe there is more of an environmental impact as well. So he said this is one of the topics that we could also work on. Back then we did some research on that, and that directly like got my attention because I was like, oh yeah, that's amazing. I always thought I will never work in corporate just because of that reason, that I thought they are maybe not very responsible. And then I got to know this approach, saying you can actually convince them or try to make them more sustainable or work in a more sustainable way. And this is how it all started. So then I did my master's degree and also my PhD in the same field, actually. So, and then I even was working in the automotive industry, which is probably not considered as the most sustainable one. But sometimes it's the challenging industry that you need to convince the most. And I also find that if a company has the money, they have the resources to do things. So this is why I always believed it's a good thing. And yeah, then I turned from the corporate world to the consultancy world because I thought now after almost 15 years or so working in corporate, it's now a good timing to basically change sides and maybe share what I experienced with other companies as well. So this is how it started. Yeah, and then I used just the relocation to Australia basically to start my work as a freelancer. And now, like the yoga business, I started that on the side. And I just realized the last couple of years, like what I'm doing with my hands. And for those of you who can't see it, so they're just moving together. So I basically start to think how I can combine it because I realized how much of the motivation for both sides I'm sharing, like, or they share basically. So with the yoga, it's like I said in the beginning, the personal sustainability. So it means how, like you said, how can we have a happier life, a more fulfilled life? And then on the corporate side, it's more, how can I be a good corporate citizen? How can I run my business so it's really sustainable, also in an economic way as well? They need to survive as well, obviously, but also how can I do my business while being ethically, while being responsible, while taking care about my employees, about the environment. So the basic motivation is very similar to me. And this is why I like to bring it together.
The way we've already also asked about some of the little definitions for words, I still think that maybe there's a little bit more we can go to clarify what we mean by sustainability,
Yes.
even personal.
Yeah.
Because when you say sustainability, my brain immediately goes to, oh yeah, recycling,
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Yep.
driving when I can take
Yes.
the public transport, like all these quite
Yep.
commonly known eco-friendly living possible label. But I'm sure that from your perspective, you found ways that are a lot deeper, a lot
Yeah.
more, again, holistic rather than, oh yeah, I'm going
Yes.
to try not buy plastic. And if I buy plastic, I will try to recycle it, all sorts of things.
Yeah, so what you mentioned is what probably most people have in mind about sustainability. And we call it the environmental dimension. So it's focused on the environment and what we can do to not harm the environment or maybe, yeah, make it even greener, whatever, nourish it. But then on the other hand, in sustainability, we talk about three pillars, or it like you can find many graphics around that as well, and display, it's always displayed in a different way. But the essence of it is we have three topics. We have environment, and this is only one. And then the second is the social dimension. And the third one is usually the governance or the economic dimension. So we have environment, social governance. Sometimes people talk about people, planet, profit. So it's always the three. So you might have heard about that. So when we think about the environment, that's great, but this is only one portion of it. So when I talk in corporate about sustainability, I also mean how do you treat your employees? And not only are they well paid, it's also how is their health and safety? What about diversity? What about your like supply chain? So where do you get your resources from? How the people are treated there? Where do you outsource your production if you're producing? Sometimes people go to other countries, and produce there. So then they just shift the problem. So all of these topics come in. So it's very, very broad, to be very honest.
We've just had a guest come on, talking about having a fulfilled life. And as a corporate employee, how do you, find a life within you or within your job or career? So as part of, the social aspect of the sustainability, do you look at different ways that employees can work within the company? We were talking about like flexi time or work from home or one day in the office, or how, to suit each individual. And it is whether you can. I mean, not all jobs are possible to do that. Is that also part of the sustainability that you look into?
Yeah, definitely. So my main focus is the sustainability strategy. So usually I go in companies and I check just where they stand and then where they could go. And what you just described is one of the possible areas they could improve if they are maybe if they are not there already. So what usually is a good indicator in this case is employee satisfaction. So you just talk to the employees or you make a survey and then you see where the problems are, and then you're discovering measures to close the gap, so to speak. So this is, I usually try and work what is already in the company. So I try to analyze and see what is there and how the situation is. And this is usually by talking to people. So you have to talk a lot to each and every one and just realize, okay, this is the situation, this is the business situation, this is the situation where how the employees feel. And then with all of this, you just create a strategy around that. And now these days we have a lot of new laws coming in, so they give a little bit of a direction in this way as well. But originally, this is how I work.
So you've recently moved to Australia. You said 2023. So it's a fairly new move. I mean, you've gone from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, literally from one side of the world to the other, or the top to the bottom, or the bottom to the top, whichever way you want to look at it. So a little bit is we'd love to hear about your experience and the moving and what got you moving. I mean, it's not just, okay, I'm just going to move house. It's a huge thing. But also is in that this not comparing, but what is the differences between, living in Europe, Germany, to living in Australia, other than the obvious, which is the beautiful weather and beaches. But it'd love to know just your story around that and your journey on getting you from Europe to Australia.
Yeah, so actually my husband was born in Perth in Australia, but then he moved to Germany when he was quite young. And there was always the question, since I got to know him, like, are we ever going back, or is he ever going back and taking me with him? So we were thinking a lot about that, but we know each other for quite some time now, and he's 3 years older than me. So when we got to know each other, we were both still in university. And then, if one is older, it's somehow always not working. So one is finishing uni, the other one is still in uni. Then one gets a job, the other one. So it's like there is not really a perfect time. So we took this thought a long time with us, and then finally now we just decided it's time to do it. And he has a lot of family here in Australia. So this was one of the reasons. And then we thought we'll just give it a try and see how it is. We both like to explore the world and yeah, just see different cultures and see different countries. And we came a few times here for a holiday. So we knew we would love it in general. And what you said about the weather is funny because usually that's one of the topics I talk with everyone who's calling me. It's like the first question, what is the weather like? Because obviously it's upside down. So now in the Northern Hemisphere, we have winter and here we have summer. But I actually feel that the weather is more important than I thought it is, not because of the weather, but like sunshine and how sunshine affects us. And you might laugh, but I feel people here are more happy, more, maybe even more friendly. And I'm very much believing that this is due to the weather and the sunshine that they have all the time. Because it seems life is so much easier when you have sunshine and blue sky, and maybe you can go to the beach. And sometimes I sit here and sitting on the beach and watching kids playing in the sand. And I wonder how it is when you grow up, you know, in such a different environment. And if you can grow up with the sunshine, and this is just my observation now for the last 1.5 years, that this really is something that impacts people a lot. I have no scientific proof of that, but this is what I guess. And also I feel the same. So I always thought especially I'm from the southern part of Germany, so it's very close to the Alps. So we had a lot of fog and rain and drizzle and whatever always, and it's very gray, and especially in winter. And I don't know, at the end of the winter, I always felt like everyone is so, maybe depressed is too much. We have to be careful with the word, but going in the direction, and then it just affects your behavior and how you're with like your family, your friends, your colleagues. And yeah, so I really like that here. I have to admit that. That's a lot about the weather, but like I said, it's the connection for me from weather to mind. And this is also why I feel practicing yoga here is more impactful somehow. Maybe it's more important if you don't have the weather, but if you have it and if you have sunshine, you can practice in the sunshine, or you can actually use it and just actively sit there and just breathe in fresh air or whatever, you know what I mean? So this is, yeah, this is a little bit about, but there is so much around the story. So whatever you want to know, you can ask. There are so many things that are different, and yeah, I'm still learning. So someone told me it takes 2 years until you really settle down, and it's now 1.5 years. And in the beginning I was laughing, and now I get it. And I guess it's really true. So there are still days where I'm like, oh no, I still haven't fully arrived. And then other days I feel good. So yeah.
No, we're there totally with you. There's definitely some science behind backing the impact of sunshine on our
Yeah.
positivity, on our energy, on our attitude towards life. That's why I'm originally from the Czech Republic. I lived in
Yeah.
the UK for a little bit, but now I'm in a van in Spain
Oh
because
yeah.
exactly
Okay.
of this. It's not like I do not mind the cold per se. I do mind the grey, drizzly, foggy
Yeah.
misery that often Central Europe gets throughout the winter. That it's just
Yeah.
like Czech Republic is such a little ball where the clouds will be sitting on months, oh no, on end with zero sunshine.
Yeah.
And
I
it's the
know.
same for Natalie. She's now making a move from UK to South Africa. She's originally from
Oh
there.
wow. Okay.
So she's also chasing sunshine. So we're totally there.
Mm. So I'm
But
not
I'm
telling you news then.
no, but I'm curious about then the practice of yoga,
Yeah.
maybe the different attitudes of people in Germany or in Europe compared to people's attitudes in Australia, be it again, is it more fitness oriented in Germany? Is it more likely to be more traditional spiritual openness in Australia? Is there something about those two countries, continents, locations that even their attitude towards yoga practices and sustainability in there as well that you've
Yeah.
noticed?
Well, I guess that's probably a little bit hard to compare because now I'm in Perth, which is a very big city, and I used to live in a smaller, it's between like a town, we would say 30,000 inhabitants were there. So I think in every place you find people that are more for the fitness side, and then you find more on the spiritual side. So here I realized there is both. But when you Google yoga here, for example, the main thing that comes up is fitness. So my approach right now is really to go out, and I already set up few workshops called Yoga as Medicine, and I really want to go for that. Talking more about the traditional meaning and why we can even consider it as holistic medicine, and not only a fitness class. So from my feeling right now, but this may be due to the big city, it's very much in the fitness corner, and there are less people talking the traditional way. But I have to admit, I found a few retreat places and a few organizations that really seem to teach the traditional way as well. So I'm still in the beginning, so it's not on me to judge anything right now, but just from my personal feeling there, I think if you go a little bit more in the countryside, because Australia is interesting. You have like this big country, and you have a few very big cities, all on the coast, and then you have few small villages on the way, and then there is a very big part of Australia where basically not many people live, and it's completely different. So I mean, it's a continent. So I think wherever you are, and I'm on the West Coast, so on the East Coast, it's probably completely different as well. I talked to a few people that lived in the East Coast, and they said, oh, the whole attitude of people, how people are, what they talk about, what they think is different to here in Perth. So I'm still getting my way around that, or just trying to figure out how it all works. But there seemed to be space for me in the approach of teaching the traditional way. So that's at least what I hope.
Well, just going on, what you've been saying is about the weather and about the differences between almost like the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
Is that something that I've experienced a lot is in Europe or in the UK, fitness is important, but it is much more about the spiritual side of it, or the meditating, or the slowing down in a way. Whereas in South Africa, it is more about the fitness. Everybody is, and I think it's because you outdoors all the time, you lead such an outdoors type of
100%.
life,
Yeah.
and the mentality is totally different. So they don't find the need, or they haven't found so much the spiritual side of it. So when you were explaining the differences in Australia, it made sense. And it just, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'm going back to South Africa, because I'm originally from South Africa and my husband's coming with me, and we're in the process of sorting out his visa and everything else. But it is the sunshine makes a huge difference. I mean, this is why Lenka picked Spain. She's mostly in a t-shirt in winter. But the thing is, sunshine is so important. But it's nice to bring that almost lightness or the sunshine into a practice. Whereas when it's practiced, and this is just my observations, people must have different experiences, but when you practice here in the UK, it's much more heavier in a way. I don't quite know how to describe it, but heavier comes in. It is about getting the poses right, but but you will be in the moment. You will just be there. You just do it, and there's that expectation that you'll have this epiphany. Meantime, you think, oh my God, I can't put my body in anymore. I can't do this. But whereas you're doing it well, for me, it was in South Africa, it's much more relaxed. It's just enjoy it. It's sunny day. Come on, just chill, chill, just enjoy. So there's less of an expectation than there is here in the UK. And I said, this is just my observations with doing yoga in both countries. But just going on a little bit about what you were saying, is wondering if that's something that you've noticed as well.
I 100% agree, and I totally get what you're meaning. I would say the same. Maybe it's even the fact that people here don't think it's that necessary for them, like the philosophical approach or the meditation or whatever, because they are happy. And like you said, not always. Okay, so we have to be aware of that as well. So not everyone is always happy, but I think the general idea is when you practice in Europe and you have bad weather and the gray and whatever, and you just want to escape. So a yoga class could be kind of your 1 hour escape where you just focus inwards and you forget everything about like the day and what's outside and whatever. So it's easier for you and you're really maybe aiming to do that in your class. While here I realized there is also a shift in the time. So people get up very early here. So if you get up at 5 and you walk in the streets, you will very likely find already someone not only walking their dog, also coffee shops. They open at 5:30 and they close at 2. And in the beginning, I wanted to have my afternoon coffee because I also work from home as a consultant still for my European clients. So I was like, oh, I need some coffee. And I went out and no coffee shop was open anymore because it's all focused in the morning because of what you said. They are outdoorsy people. They like have the good weather. So you usually you awake very early, but then also they go to sleep earlier. So the whole rhythm shifts and I feel it's a more natural rhythm, which I like. So that fits to the yoga approach as well. But yeah, maybe it's the fact that if you really want to escape from that, you just use the class. And if you're generally like, oh yeah, that's fine, I can just do another fitness class. So I'm just doing yoga and Pilates and yeah. But then still, I guess deep inside, people always want to have answers to basic questions, like to the big questions, why we are here, why we are doing all things. And especially if you're in a tricky situation in your life, I think the questions come up again. So then it doesn't matter if the sun is shining or not. I reckon then they will all look for answers. So
It's so interesting because as you were speaking about, searching for answers, but also escape, started thinking about, the origin of yoga in India and how many people these days go back to the motherland of yoga, go back to India, to
yeah,
ashrams, to either individually just travel and be immersed in the culture there, or go on retreats to be guided and
yeah,
be, supported through there. And I know that you also do some retreats in India. So I would love to know a little bit
yeah,
more about, your trips there. I've been to India. It's incredible like part of the world. And yeah, you definitely feel so differently about these things. The moment you live with the locals there, you are immersed, you go to the temples, you see people practicing. Again, something else comes into your practice, into your life through just being surrounded by the culture, the history, the energy of that place.
yeah. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. So, as I said in the beginning, I learned yoga from my yoga teacher in India. And as soon as I got to know him, I realized how much different this traditional way, like he is teaching, is to all the other classes I had before. So then very quickly, first of all, I decided to do the yoga teacher training with him. So I had this in my mind for a very long time. And once I got to know him, I was like, ah, yeah, that's the one I want to learn from. So then this was clear for me. But after doing a while doing my yoga teacher training, I didn't intend to do it because I wanted to be a teacher. I just did it for myself because I found it very interesting and I just wanted to know the philosophy and everything. And I remember he asked me like, "Do you want to teach when you're finished?" And I said, "Oh, maybe, I don't know." And then through the whole, like, it's a journey, it's a process. And once I got my certificate, but this was only the first teacher training, so I think in yoga, we always keep on being students, even if we are a teacher. So it's a lifelong learning. But then I realized I want, like I said, to pass on that traditional way. So then I actually got into teaching myself. Um, and yeah, then I thought, okay, but maybe it's really good if people travel to India and just see how India is and just experience what you just shared that you experienced Also because of what we talked about earlier, yes, the weather is gray and rainy and whatever, but in general, we also have to admit we are very lucky, no matter where we are in like the Western world, you could say. We have everything we need and we don't need to be so worried all the time. And if you go to India, I think that changes your perspective in that way. So I decided, I asked him and we collaborate on that. So basically, I'm taking people from wherever in the world now they want to join us. And we created this program called Yoga and Explore. Why explore? Because it's exploring India, but through exploring India, we explore ourselves. I'm 100% sure about that. So, and we did now 5 of those retreats already. So we started in 2019, did one, then COVID came, but then after that we started again. And we usually do it twice in a year through the big festivals. So one festival is March, the Holi festival in March. The second is Diwali in October, November. So that's the festival of lights. And in March, Holi is festival of color. And these are very like happy festivals where you can really see how they celebrate and how the culture is. So I really like to bring people in that phase of the year. And we do yoga, we go to spiritual places, we also share the culture with them, and they have 2 weeks of a full-on experience. I'm not a travel agent, but India is like my home of the heart. I always tell that because the first time I arrived there, I felt at home. I don't know why. It's just like that. So this is why I want to share that with people. And there are so many misconceptions about India as well. So many people always told me, "Oh, you're not afraid to go." And I said, "Why should I be afraid?" And then there's any information, and I'm like, "How do you know that?" "Oh, yeah, because of in the news or in TV." And I'm like, "Yeah, but have you been there?" No, it's not like that. So yeah, I can just encourage anyone to come and travel to India, but I know it's not everyone's cup of tea to go alone, and this is why we created this program. And I feel I'm kind of the cultural bridge between India and maybe Europe or now Australia. But I can understand both sides, I guess, in a good way. So yeah. You're welcome to join me next time, Lenka, if you want. Or Natalie, of course, as well. But Lenka, if you have been there already and you want to go back.
I would love to go back and have more of the spiritual journey. For me, it was more of a trip. A friend went
Yeah.
there for his gap year, started teaching English in a Tibetan village, came back, lived there and 10 years later, keep coming back. And so he took us there he was the bridge. It was
Yeah.
great. It was a couple of friends.
Yeah.
He organized everything. So yeah, the same like with India, there is a little bit of the expectation. Is it a country safe for a girl to travel
Yeah.
alone? Is
Yeah.
it even without any kind of media, it is a big, overwhelming, chaotic country.
Yes.
So unless you're very resilient type of a traveler who can handle unpredictability, noise, chaos, like different kind of a level of chaos. I don't think it's necessarily about the prejudices of people and safety and any kind of potential danger. It is just generally, it's a pretty chaotic country with very overwhelming, and navigating so many things by
Yeah.
yourself
That is
can be a
true.
bit tricky. So that's where
Yeah.
doing with someone who is the bridge, who can help, who can translate, who understands there's so many unspoken rules, there's so many quirks that the
Yeah.
people have the way for you to get where you need to go. But it is for me one huge lesson till today I have from India. It's India time. It's the patience.
Yes.
It's the different level of just
Yes.
patience. And again, that's for me, it comes back to yoga. It's the
Yeah.
people present. Don't think I should have been 5 steps further. Don't think too much about a schedule. And I'm very, again, Central European, very organized, very logic,
Yeah.
very methodical person. So for me, accepting India time took a while, but it's
Yeah.
such a valuable lesson to have in life.
Yeah, I can share a small insight with you. So it wasn't that easy to plan that in the beginning, having like an Indian time yoga teacher and an organized German. So that you can imagine was kind of a clash of cultures in the beginning as well. But this is why I'm now very convinced it works out the way it does, because we trust each other and everyone knows what he or she has to do now and what the role is. And then people can just like they just basically need to enroll in the program. They need to book their flight, but I support in that. And then once we start with this, they can just let go. So they can just fully, this is the only requirement I have. You need to trust me, and you need to trust the progress. And other than that, you can, you can just enjoy 2 weeks. And I never share the complete program up front because of many reasons. One of the reasons you just said, but also because it helps, I feel it helps the people that join to just live in the moment, and also accept that it is like it is in India. And sometimes you plan something for one day and then it just doesn't work because the taxi driver suddenly has a wedding from a friend of an uncle from whatever, and you just can't do it. So then you do it the next day, and that's fine as well. Maybe it turns out to be even better because for whatever reason. So that's the beauty of India. And I just felt I trust the country and the people there. And once you do that, everything is usually going in a very smooth way. But I get the point, like you said, it is on one perspective, it's very chaotic, obviously, and it's very different to what we are used to, especially if we are very organized Europeans. Yeah.
Or experiencing different cultures is so important, especially if trying or working on finding who you are or finding more life in one's life. Is sometimes when you experience a different culture, it gives you a new insight or maybe even appreciation for what you have, or just as you said, is connecting with a culture that you maybe never even thought that you would connect with. And as you said, you have India in your heart, and that is, you most probably wouldn't have found that unless you had experienced India for yourself, because I doubt you sat in Germany and said it's all about India. It's India in my heart, and I know this is going to work, but it's having experienced it and lived it and experienced the taxi driver not turning up because of the wedding and an uncle and a cousin and the neighbor 3 doors down type of thing. But you can talk about it, but until you experience it, you don't really understand it or get the lesson from it. And these retreats that you're doing sound amazing, and I'm sure our listeners will just go onto your information and find them. But it is definitely, if you can, in any way, even if it's just a neighboring country, is experience a different culture. I mean, even though we all from Europe, is we all three of us have totally different cultures, because Germany is different to Czech Republic, which is different to the UK. So it's really interesting to experience in different things. And of course, if you're on a spiritual journey or a personal development journey or just on a life journey, traveling is so important. And I know Lenka's nodding away there. Because I think it is important. Hop on to our Patreon account to get this episode's amazing and wonderful gold nugget. So now, if people are interested, you've mentioned your daily practice on your website, but if people want to connect with you, if they want to find out about the retreats, they just want to be in your circle, how can people connect with you, or where can they find you?
Yes, so it's Satyam Yoga is the name. So I think you can see that on probably how you describe the podcast. But if you Google Satyam Yoga, be aware there are a few studios, like we said before. So Satyam Yoga Community is what you should look for. Satyam Yoga Community on Instagram, on Facebook. And then for my website, it's satyamyoga.net. So this is the link to the website. I think this is the 3 main sources where you can find me. And then just reach out, text me, send me whatever you want, a like, a share, follow, whatever you want. And I'm happy to connect with all of you and with everyone who's interested. And I'm always happy for feedback. If you liked what I said, it's just always interesting for me as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, sharing your energy, sharing your stories and experiences, and just being with us in this space right now. So thank you so much for everything that you shared with us today.
Thank you as well. Thank you for having me.
And for our listeners, what have you got from today? Is yoga something that you practice regularly and you've been doing it for years and you've actually found it a really great way to connect with your own spirituality? Or is yoga something that you just do to bend like a pretzel and be fit and flexible? Or is yoga something that you're even thinking about doing? Even the sustainability is, how can you help be more sustainable, whether it's in yourself or whether it's the environment? Or have you been to India? Do you recommend it? What stories have you got from India? Or is India a place that you would like to go? All of these questions, so many questions, but we would love to know your thoughts, your aha moments, or what you've got from this episode. Do share with us, and share with any of your friends or colleagues who you think would find value in this conversation. By the way, don't forget about our Patreon account where you get the gold nuggets. And today we had a fantastic gold nugget to share. So do pop onto Patreon, into the gold nugget section, but there is also a free section in Patreon that you can join up and just be part of the community. But until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.